Hello and welcome to tonight's whiskey review. Tonight I will be reviewing George Dickel's white corn whiskey, their #1 recipe. This is 91 proof, so 45.5 ABV. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later because my ice is melting really quickly in here. And I really want to do a quick taste comparison before this turns into like 50% water. I really need to get some whiskey stones. Okay, now that I got that on my head, I can go and do the rest of this review. So basically, George Dickel White Whiskey is George Dickel's getting onto the white whiskey train along with everyone else. And so this is, of course, a Tennessee whiskey, George Dickel and Jack Daniels being the two big Tennessee whiskey makers. And this is chilled and charcoal filtered, but not barrel aged at all. It's completely 100% clear. And basically, this is the same whiskey that goes into all their whiskey recipes. Number 12, the number 18, and the barrel select. It's all in a matter of how long they're aged, how they're treated after they're aged, whether they're watered down or, kept at barrel strength. And so it's really interesting. Pretty much none of the George Dickel whiskeys are really spectacularly expensive. This particular one I got on sale. It was $16. It's pretty high quality, even for a white dog, I find, in that it's not offensive tasting like most white dogs / moonshines would be. So the other side of that coin is that even though it's not really offensive, it's still kind of rough around the edges and not all that complex. Much of the complexity of whiskey comes out in the barrel aging process. So you're kind of stuck with something that's got some pretty strong flavors, but not too much nuance or delicacy to it, and pretty much hits you over the head. And what does it hit you over the head with? Corn. Lots and lots of corn. And it's a real nose hair burner, let me tell you. Let's try it from the chilled glass here. Still smell corn, but you kind of get some other notes coming through. Some of them aren't too pleasant. I find like that sort of petrol distillates kind of smell is stronger. This corn kind of covers it up in here. But the butteriness, vanilla, hints of green apple too. Honestly, one of the biggest things that's the smaller flavors, the smaller smells that it sort of reminds me of is of Japanese shochu, which is rather fitting in that shochu is single distilled and is not aged at all. So it's not surprising it's kind of got that rough smell to it. That said, it doesn't have anything near shochu's character. It's just sort of reminiscent of it, I find. So for the straight one, full-on buttered popcorn, pretty much, is the smell. And corn is the primary aspect of the taste. Hints of vanilla. Buttered popcorn. Honestly, at times I find it, because it's also fairly sweet on the palate too. It's just sort of generalized sweetness underneath the sort of initial alcohol burn. That the flavor sort of reminds me of the Jelly Belly buttered popcorn jelly beans. That's what it's very reminiscent of. And I actually kind of like them. I hated them as a kid, but I kind of like them now just because they're so different and strong in flavor. Now chilled, it gets pretty interesting. Flavor is not as intense, but you get a lot more nuances to it. Apple and lemon, green apple and lemon, sort of tartness. It's a bit more of a, there's a bit more of a nasty aftertaste to it. I find that with this, drinking it straight at the 91 proof, that finish is a lot smoother. You have a much more lingering sense of, I wouldn't say lemonous, but sort of a sourness to the palate that, you know, kind of covers up the more off tastes that, once you get the watered down into the whiskey, kind of come out in full play. I really enjoy drinking this. You know, because you don't have to think much about it, and it's got something I like, which is big flavors, just not very nuanced flavors. It's just hitting you over the head with that corn. That said, I'm kind of interested in seeing people kind of work with that sort of white whiskey flavor into cocktails because it has such a distinct taste to it. You don't really get much White Dog / moonshine based cocktails that are really good. Most people try to like just cover up that sort of White Dog taste with things like cherries or sweet tea or something like that. I'd like to see some people work with it, especially something like this where the chill filtering has removed much of the more rougher edges of it. Basically, like cheap White Dog will taste like kerosene as a finish. This has none of that kerosene, just kind of that light off taste, especially when you get it in the chilled form and it starts watering down a bit. And I just gave my keyboard a good drink there. Okay, disinfected the keyboard. No Ebola there. Ebola free zone. So, George Dickel White Corn Whiskey. $15 a bottle, you really can't go wrong with it, you know? Give it a shot. So, that's your whiskey review for tonight. Cheers.